Revelation 2323. From the 4th of May 1942. Oriented thoughts. Teaching activity. God's protection. An enlightened person's thought activity is orderly, that is, his thoughts are not erratic and incoherent but clear and consistent, and if he now wants to convey these thoughts to his fellow human being, it will also be understandable to him as soon as he also strives spiritually and desires truth. For this is caused by the forces which stand in truth, that the truth is offered such that it can be understood when the will for truth is present. However, different degrees of maturity can be found, and therefore also different receptiveness for truth, if it is imparted by the spiritual beings which stand in knowledge. The intimacy of the connection with God increases the receptivity, since it also corresponds to the human being's degree of love. And the human being whose life is an activity of love will now pay attention to every impulse within himself and thus hear the voice of the Spirit within himself. Consequently, he can be instructed by the Spirit within himself and be introduced to all wisdom out of God. And whatever knowledge is imparted to him by the Spirit within himself he also grasps. For the Spirit does not announce itself in an incomprehensible way but time and again instructs the human being until he lets the thought material offered to him become his spiritual property and is now able to pass it on in an understandable way. Therefore, one can never speak of spiritual activity if the spiritual gift remains incomprehensible. The human being can intellectually receive something and want to pass it on. He will offer it to his fellow human being incoherently as long as it is only his intellectual thinking. Whereas the gifts of the Spirit are offered in coherence, because the givers of these, the spiritual forces which let God's emanation, light, that is knowledge, flow to the Spirit in the human being, take care that their gifts are received as they are given by them. If the human being is willing to pass on the received spiritual knowledge to his fellow human being, the working of the Spirit is unlimited, that is, the Spirit from God now directs his thoughts and words so that only that which is beneficial for his soul is conveyed to his fellow human being, and this is always the pure truth. Pure truth is where God's Spirit is active. And it will also be where the human beings will declares itself willing to pass it on. For God himself instructs people who want to serve him and trains them as teachers so that they can pass on the same truth to their fellow human beings because they do not want to accept it directly. And he equips them with clear knowledge and judgment, for their task is too important not to be under his protection. The truth shall be conveyed to earth through people who are completely devoted to him, and thus he also grants them his special protection. Amen.